Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today's video is going to be focused on car photography, specifically how focal length makes a difference in the photos that we take. I have my setup here on the E30 ready to go. We'll be running through an 18 to 35 millimeter lens as well as a 70 to 200. What my plan is to take the car out, set it up, and then in the same spot run through a bunch of different focal lengths just to see how the compression of the different lenses, any distortion, and how kind of the environment changes around the car. I hear a lot of people asking like what lens is the best for car photography, and I'll say right now there really isn't one best lens. A lot of it is going to depend on your style and what you like to shoot. Each focal length will have its own pros and cons, so I just want to make this video to kind of show some examples of what a large range of focal lengths will get you with a car in the same exact location. And at the end, after we've run through everything, I'll add in a few more examples to kind of show how you can change the environment and how you can change the style of your photos based on what focal length you want to use for that photo. So let's fire up the car, take it out, and find a good location that we'll be able to put all of these focal lengths to use. Okay, I've made it to what I think will be the first location we'll shoot at today. We have the car here in front of a cornfield. At first I was going to shoot it directly facing the cornfield, but the road leading up to it is slightly curved. So I've positioned the car to be backlit, so we'll have the sun directly behind the car. I've got the gear in hand, and what I'll do first is, starting at 200 millimeters of a focal length, I'll go all the way back that I can to fit the car in, take the shot, and then slowly move up, trying to keep the car in the same size of frame as I scoot closer, and we'll see how the photos change. All right, we have the first photo lined up here with the 200. We'll crouch down, try to minimize any background distractions. One car pull up, I guess they're gonna hike around the cornfields. So for photos with the 200, obviously you can see how far back I had to scoot to fit the whole car in there with a little bit of the environment. The 200 will give us a lot more compression of the background. It makes the subject look a lot larger in frame. There's not going to be any distortion on the car. It's going to look real to life with a background, in this case the cornfield. We'll get a lot of separation between our subject and that background. We'll line this up dead center, and then we'll start to scoot forward and keep taking photos at different focal lengths. For these, I am crouched down, trying to line the lens up with the headlight height. So to line these up, I've put my center mark on my screen onto the car's leftmost headlight, so I can kind of position that as I scoot forward. That was at 200. The next mark will be 135. We'll scoot. We're trying to keep the car in about a third of the frame. So we shouldn't notice too much of a change in the larger focal lengths. We should see some change going from like the ends of the lenses going from 200 down to 70, but it'll just be with a little bit less compression of the background. The car should still kind of maintain its similar proportions. The big changes will be when we step down to the 35. Obviously we'll lose a lot of compression. 35 millimeters on a crop sensor camera that I'm using. It is supposedly as close to what your eyes naturally see. So the car should look pretty normal, but then once we get down to 24, 18 millimeters, then we'll start to see kind of the more drastic effects of the distortion on the car, but even that shouldn't be too bad. Next up, 105. All right, I think we'll get one more out of this lens before switching, heading down to 70. All right, so that was the last one at 70 for this first lens. One of the big things we'll notice, we have Rattlesnake Mountain way out in the distance. That mountain, as we change to a lower focal length, it has kind of decreased in its size in the frame. And then once we got down to this 70, it has fallen behind the car and is fully covered up. So I've gone ahead and switched over to the 18 to 35. And just for fun, I'll take a photo right where I was at the 70, and then we'll be able to compare what this position looked at from 70 to 35. And then I'll continue filling the frame with the same amount of car and get a little bit closer. So we're at the final location for the 18mm distance. You can see we are right up on the car. One of the big things we'll notice here is that we have to get awfully close to fill the same amount of frame with the car. With these lower focal lengths, we start to see we can no longer hide this light pole and some of these kind of, I guess, warning signs at the end of the road here. With your lower focal lengths, obviously, you're going to get a lot more of the surrounding areas, and that's what we've had here. We've gotten kind of these poles on the side of the car. We're so close to the car definitely does look distorted at this point. What I like to do when I'm typically shooting 18mm is actually get a little bit above the car. I don't think keeping your lens at eye level really works too much anymore. So what I'll do is I'll raise up and then take one more photo at 18 super close with the car a little bit below where my lens is at. So we're here just showing with the GoPro. Like I was saying, this is about where I am even with the headlight, and then I'll stand up, get a little bit more of the car this way. I think it fills the frame better. It's a little bit more interesting than just getting that front on shot with the wider angle focal lengths. Okay, so I've wrapped up shooting the car here at all the different focal lengths for my two lenses. This probably would be a spot that I would go for the longer focal lengths, especially with this long road. I would want to use that longer length to compress this road to make the car kind of more imposing and stand out a little bit more on this long straightaway, kind of with everything focusing down towards the car. I'll put up a few more examples of when I would use a longer focal length, really when I want to compress the background and I like to personally get a lot of the environment into my photos. So that's something that I would do a lot, is use a larger focal length, really be away from that environment and really be away from the vehicle, just to kind of get everything into the proper perspective in that photo. And alternatively, for a wider angle, if I want something up close to a building or up close to the background, that's probably when I would go for a wider focal length. I'll put up a couple here. With the larger focal length, you wouldn't really get much of this background visible, and it would just kind of be like a wall behind the car. So that wider focal length really helps out in that scenario to get more of your environment if it's up close behind your car. Hopefully this has been informative to somebody out there. If you'd like to see me try to do more car photography videos and kind of tips and tricks of how I shoot, let me know, and I'll do my best to kind of make more as I can. Thanks for watching.